in the Regional 4 final. UCLA would meet the USC-UConn winner on Friday in Tampa. South Carolina, the defending national champions, will play the winner of tonight's Texas Christian Regional 3 title game in the other Final Four matchup. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
we're moving on now.
Earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th. At 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
And this is what it feels like. And this is what it feels like. Look, the only reason I survive, cause it's special first. You get successful, then it gets stressful thirst. Gonna test you, see what your texture's worth. Diamonds and pipes, one of them pressure burst. Street, still I get checks and spurts. I'm for peace, but before I get pressed, I murk. Better days prayed for, but expecting worse. At this level, boy, I'm just less concerned. Cruising in the 6, looking at the proceeds of rap music on my wrist. Drop another mixtape, my booming out this young Malcolm. I'm the leader of the movement out this love. And this is what it feels like. Reach a level, make you question, is it real life? All of good, all of real tight. And the only rule, keep your dollar bills and right. This is what it feels like. And this is what it feels like. And this is what it feels like. And this is what it feels like.
Scorpion bricks, way before Orbeez double disc. On my lap, clap, sound like 40 did the mix. Filtered bass, sip like a Michelin star chef. Kiss to my wrist, I go dummy with my left. IRS on my, try to audit all my checks, too late. You know they hate when you become more than they expect. You let them crackers storm your capital, put their feet up on your desk, and yet you talking tough to me. I lost all my little respect, I'm selling in the open, bringing folks home from the feds. I know the payback gon' be mean. I'm saving all my little bread, pray for me, y'all. One day I'ma have to pay for these thoughts. Real this thing, it ain't safe for me, my dog, they killing.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Delighted to have you with us in this hour, and I've been looking forward to this hour. If you're in LA and you listen to my home station, KBLA Talk 1580, of course, we're heard across the country. And as I always say, I am humbled to be in syndication in so many markets all across America. But in my hometown of LA, if you listen to our station, I pray that you do. You've been hearing us run a piece about the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, encouraging people to participate and spread the word about this project. If you're listening locally, you've been hearing that promo. For the national audience, this may be your first time being introduced to this. But there's a wonderful new project, again, called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. It is the brainchild of my friend George Fothery III, brilliant attorney, amazing social impact entrepreneur, who has all kind of great projects happening all at once. But we're talking about this one today. If you don't know the name George Fothery III, you know his work. He is the guy who got the land back for the Bruce's Beach family. So everybody knows that Bruce's Beach story. He got the land back for them, and I tease him every time I talk to him because I can only imagine how his phone must have been ringing off the hook when that case was settled. and the family got the land back, I know his phone had to be ringing because there are black people. I've talked to too many just in my own work in the broadcast business, too many black people who've had land stolen from them, literally from California to the Carolinas. And so I was beyond thrilled when George reached out to me and suggested to me that they were starting this project, and I invited him on this program to talk about it. Before we get into a conversation about the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I want you to hear some sound. I don't need to explain this. Just take a listen.
I hope that by people sharing their stories, I hope they can get some worth, some self-worth about their lives, because black people have been kicked, hit, spit on, killed, where some have just kind of sunk into a corner. I hope your project will give some self-worth to people, because we're not just bums and drug addicts and standing on a street corner. I have uneducated parents who own something, and I don't want to sound racist, but a lot of white people didn't own 10 acres of land. That makes me feel good that that my parents, so that gives me some worth. There was another, I don't know if you can add this. We had 10 acres of land. A few years before they started we're starting the eminent domain stuff, they took about a quarter acre because they said it's next to a school. They said they needed it for parking for the baseball fields. So they had already taken some from us, about a quarter acre. So then they come back later to get the rest. So it was, and they never did anything with the quarter acre they took for us. Blackberry briars and dandelions and Scotch broom. They didn't do anything, but they just took it. Let us know, I think, that they could.
You couldn't stand that your parents, who were uneducated black sharecroppers from the South, had managed to obtain that for themselves.
Yeah. Proud of them.
I think they're proud of what you're doing right now. Thank you.
It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. It is the brainchild of George Fothery III, the man, again, who got the land back for the Boosters Beach family. When we come forward, I will let George explain what you just heard, and we will jump from there. You're listening, I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. Our guest in this hour is George Follery III. So we just played a clip for you, George. First of all, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Good to see you, Tavis. Thank you for having me back to talk about this important project. And thank you for helping us get the word out.
Nope, my pleasure. So tell me what we just heard.
Yeah, so that gentleman, that brave gentleman, that is John Houston. Let me tell you about John and his family. Mm-hmm. John's mom and dad were sharecroppers in Louisiana in the 1940s. John's dad had heard that there was a naval base in Washington State that would hire black people. So he left Louisiana, took caravan, walked, got himself to Seattle, Washington, and found this naval base. Naval base was in a city called Bremerton. They built ships. Sure enough, they hired black people. John's dad got a job at the naval base building ships. Black people couldn't live within the city of Bremerton because of racial restrictions. Mm-hmm. So he ended up moving in a town called Renton, about 10 miles away. Worked for 10 years, saved money, and saved enough to buy a 10-acre parcel of land in Renton, Washington. Wrote to his wife and said, I want you to bring the family. So they moved. His wife came. She brought the kids. They lived on this 10 acres in Renton, Washington, and they lived off the land. They farmed. He did, he junked cars. He did construction stuff, but they lived off that land, that 10 acres. The Renton School District came and said, hey, we need to take this land. We're going to build a middle school. That's crazy because from the Houston's front porch, you could see the middle school. It's about a mile away. You could look at it, right? But the district said, no, we need this land. We're going to build a new school. John's parents refused to sell. In 1963, there was a mysterious fire that burned the house down. Never investigated. Thankfully, nobody was killed. The Houstons rebuilt. A few years later, the house caught fire again. They rebuilt again, and finally, I think it was 68. There was an explosion that went off on the family's front porch. A bomb went off. When that bomb went off, John's father finally said, "Okay, we're gonna let the district take this land." They took it via eminent domain. I've got a copy of the deed where he signed his name with an X. He was not literate. He was not educated. Uneducated sharecropper from Louisiana. School district took that land because they had to build a school. They held the land for 2 years, turned around and sold it to a Washington real estate developer who built 200 homes on that 10 acres. Today, each of those homes, Tavis, sell for about between $900,000 and $1.2 million. And they never built a school, and the Houstons lost that property. And when I spoke with John, who you heard, what he talked about is how that loss impacted his life. And he shares very publicly that, after that loss, his parents separated, which happens in a lot of these cases when you see, it tears a family apart. His dad wasn't in the house. His mom had to work 2 jobs, so the kids started getting in trouble. John started drinking, started doing drugs. He ended up he spent the majority of his life homeless or incarcerated. And he got out, he got clean, and he's focused on, he traced it back, he traced it back, and it was this, it was this taking of the family's land. So that's one story, but it's one of hundreds. It's one of thousands.
I was just talking, as you may have heard before you came in studio, in our last hour, we were talking about trauma.
Yeah.
We were just talking about trauma and the impact it has on people's lives when this kind of theft, frankly, happens. Let me slow down for a second here. I got a really bright audience. I know they get this. So I don't need to ask you to explain what eminent domain is, although you should feel free to do so in short order. But to what extent is your research telling you that black people have been harmed by this notion of eminent domain over the years, all across the country?
Look, I think so eminent domain is one example, and one of the things we could talk about, get into, is it's just one example. And for me, when we go out and we're collecting these stories, right? So as you mentioned, right, Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, this is an effort to collect, preserve, and amplify stories of black land loss. And we feel urgency around this work because every year that goes by, we lose these stories.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The great-grandmothers die, the great-grandfathers die, the story keepers die. And so this work has real urgency. Look, coming into this work, I felt like I understood the impacts of, of depriving a people, of a community, the right to own real estate, build intergenerational wealth, right? And we see it in the wealth gap. We see it in the home ownership gap. What you're getting on from this, from the last caller or from the last guest in this call is, it's not just the economic impacts, but when we interview families, what you see is you see the psychological impact, and it's it's been wild, Tavis, because you talk to some of these, and this is like the second, third, fourth generation after the land theft has occurred, and what they'll say is, my father was so ashamed that land got taken. He felt like and so we couldn't talk about it, right? Shut up, don't talk about that. There's a shame, there's a sense of like you got duped, that like you weren't smart enough, and that has lasting impacts on our families and our communities. So it's been eye-opening for me, all of the different ways, not just economic, that this black land theft has impacted our community and our people.
Yeah. Would you say, let me ask this question another way, would you say that eminent domain is one of the, I won't say prevailing, but one of the standard ways in which black folk have lost their land, or has it been stolen through some other means?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So that's what I'm learning. So I came into this and I thought I knew the playbook, right? You've got redlining. You've got racially restrictive covenants that says black people can't live here. You've got eminent domain, where the city or the county says we need to build a highway or we need to build a school and we're going to take your property. I thought I understood the playbook, but let me tell you what I'm learning. We went out, we collected a narrative in Texas. Collected a couple in Texas. They were busy in Texas, boy. They were busy.
Somehow I'm not surprised. Yeah. I am not surprised by this.
So, but let me tell you what I learned though. So I go out and I sit down with the family. I say, okay, tell me about how they stole your land. And they looked at me. They said, nobody stole our land. And I said, okay. Well, what happened? You lost your land. They stole it. They said, no, we didn't steal our land. They said, we had a family farm. And they said, let me explain to you about farming. When you run a farm, you got to borrow money, right? Farms don't operate without credit, and the lender is the government, right? It's the Food the Food and Drug Administration, I think, is the main lender. And they said, but all that funding is administered here at the local county level, right? And so you got to go and apply at the county level, and we know who operates kind of those offices. So what they said is, we had a farm, and the government refused to lend money to black farm owners. So they would make the loans to the white farm owners. But if you're black, you wouldn't get the loan. There'd always be something that was wrong. And so what that meant is, like, after a few seasons, like, our neighbors are like, getting money, they're planting crops, they're getting equipment, they're hiring people, they're selling, and they're paying back the loan. We couldn't grow anything. So after about a decade of that, we had to sell the farm, right? We had to sell at auction. Who buys it? Our next door neighbor, right? So it's like, nobody stole it. So I heard that story. And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I never thought about that. So I go to the next interview and I ask him, hey, tell me about who stole your land. And they go, man, nobody stole our land. But here's what he said. I said, tell me what happened. He goes, well, we had oil land, right? We had oil. And they said what happened is when oil was discovered in the county, the oil companies came in and they would sign leases with all the landowners to extract the oil from the land. They wouldn't sign leases with the black landowners, right? They didn't want to see us getting rich, see us getting wealthy. So all the white landowners, you had these oil leases, you're making a ton of money. The county increases the property tax because everybody can afford it. Who can't afford it? It's us. And so then we lost the land to a tax foreclosure. Who bought the land? Our next door neighbor. So it's like
slick as sandpaper.
It's
as
like
slick as sandpaper.
You have no idea the lengths that folks, government, private, like banks went to take land from black people. And so what I'm learning is eminent domain was huge, right? Yeah. That's happened all over. Urban renewal, another like code word for like, taking black neighborhoods and redeveloping it. But it was not like, how did they do it? It's like, how didn't they do it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a deep playbook.
It's a very deep playbook. It's been perfected over a century and a half.
So it seems to me that just given what you've laid out now, that while you can collect these stories in the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, and you should collect these stories, and you're right, there's a timeline on this, right? Because people are dying. So I get that part. What I don't get is down the road how people think they get their land back if they were in fact duped out of the land, if they were tricked out of the land. I get that part. But this is very different, it seems to me, than what you did for the Bruce's Beach family. What am I missing here?
Yeah, no. So look, so the genesis of this project is obviously the work we did with the Bruce family. And as you pointed out, once the Bruce family got that land back, right, I was getting emails and phone calls every day.
I'm sure.
Attorney Father, we had 30 acres oil land in Louisiana. When my great-grandfather died, the neighbor forged his name on the deed, and we lost everything. Can you help us? Attorney Father, we had a 100-acre cattle ranch in South Texas, and one day the sheriff came with guns and dogs and said, if we don't leave town, there'll be trouble. We left that night. We lost everything. Can you help us? What I realized, Tavis, was that our legal system does not provide any remedy in 99.999% of these cases. And I remember, and this was a powerful moment to me, I remember I was speaking to somebody, and I said that, and he said, Attorney Father, you don't understand. I've got evidence. I got the documents. And I said, sir, I'm sorry, but you don't understand. Our legal system does not provide a remedy in that case. And what he said, I'll never forget this, he said, yeah, I guess our legal system's broken. And when he said that, I laughed, which was not appropriate. But he said that. He said, our legal system's broken. And I said, sir, our legal system is not broken. Our legal system works precisely
the way it was supposed to.
The way it was designed to work by and for the people who designed it. That's not me and you.
Sure.
And so when those words came out of my mouth, what I realized was, okay, the law is not gonna help here. And if we lose these stories, all hope is lost. Mm-hmm. And so we've got like an urgent imperative to collect these stories. And why collect them, right? That's where you're going. Why collect them? When you look at Bruce's Beach, now people know that I was involved in the Bruce case. They know I'm an attorney, so they assume I went out and I sued the city of Manhattan Beach and we got the land back. Like, that's not what happened, right? At the core, kind of the genesis of the Bruce family get that land back was a well-preserved and a compelling story. Mm-hmm. And it was a story when people like I heard it, when community leaders and activists like Kavon Ward heard it, when elected officials like Janice Hahn heard that story, you kind of look at yourself and you're like, that's not right. We got to do something. And so that's the beginning. Like if you're asking like, what are we going to do with these stories kind of down the road? How are we going to use it to get individual pieces of land back? The honest answer is, Tavis, I'm not sure.
But it starts with a narrative though.
But it starts with collecting and preserving these. Yeah. And my hope is that, when you put this body of information together and you share it, and I think good-minded, good-hearted people, when they hear these stories, it changes the way they think about stuff. Mm-hmm. And it helps us understand how we got to where we are today. And hopefully it'll help persuade us of the imperative to change where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a strange question, but I know you can handle it because you are George Fabry III. How would you situate the timing of this project, the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project? Situate the timing of this project finding its, you know where I'm going already, I hear you laughing. The timing of this project finding its legs in the era of Trump 2.0.
Man, I was afraid you were going to ask about this.
You knew I was going there, didn't you?
I was afraid you were going to ask about this.
Yeah, just situate it as you will.
So look, this project got out of the gate, pre this administration, right? We've been, this has been a couple years in the making, and it really kind of kicked off last year. So this project has been going. What I'll say, though, the need and the importance and the urgency of this project has never been more clear than it is right now. So I serve as a commissioner for one of the Smithsonian Institution museums. We got a letter from the administration last week. Not a letter. We got an executive order. Let me say what the executive order said. I'm just going to read a few sentences. He said, over the past decades, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. This revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as an inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, and otherwise irredeemably flawed. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, the widespread effort to rewrite history deepens societal divides and fosters a sense of national shame, disregard, and honor. So what's going on with this administration is a rewriting of history, and they want to erase. We got to understand, we can't go forward unless we understand how we got to where we are now. I'll give a simple example of this. When the Bruces lost their property in the eminent domain action in the early 1920s, it wasn't just the Bruce family that lost land. You know this. There were 5 other black families who had their property taken in that eminent domain. And the reason, and those were the only black families who owned property and lived in the city of Manhattan Beach at the time. So every black family who lived in Manhattan Beach in the 1920s lost their land in the eminent domain action. Fast forward 100 years, Manhattan Beach has got the lowest population of African-American citizens of any city in LA County, right? It's like 0.5%. If you don't know the history of that eminent domain 100 years ago, and you say, well, how come so few black people live in Manhattan Beach? You'll develop a narrative, right? You'll say, well, it's really expensive to live there. Black people don't have the money, or, it's close to the ocean, and black people don't
we don't swim, yeah.
Yeah, right there. So you come up with, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
That's not the right narrative. What happened was the city 100 years ago took every parcel of land that a black family was living in, and that's got a legacy. That's how we got here. We got to understand how we got here if we're serious about getting out of here.
Yeah. This is a fascinating conversation for me. I knew it would be when George Fowley III showed up. The project is called the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project. More about it and how you can support it and be a part of it and get your story told. We come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump commuted the sentence of Black Aussie Media founder Carlos Watson, who was convicted of defrauding investors. Watson was set to serve nearly a decade in prison. The White House has declined to comment. Protesters held over 200 demonstrations at Tesla dealerships, accusing CEO Elon Musk of funding political actions they see as threats to democracy. They urge people not to buy Teslas. Egg prices are dropping as chicken flocks recover from the bird flu. The average price of a dozen eggs fell to $3 last week, down from $8.15 in February after the U.S. lost over 12% of egg-laying hens earlier this year. And for the second time in NCAA tournament history, all 4 number 1 seeds are advancing to the college basketball playoffs. Houston will face Duke and Auburn will play Florida, with the winners competing for the national championship on April 7th. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Since the dawn of baseball, countless players have heard the call of destiny. Witness the heroes of the game in ballparks nationwide. Get your tickets today at MLB.com/tickets. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They are going to the Final Four for the first time in their 41-year history as an NCAA program. UCLA held off LSU for a 72-65 victory in the Regional 1 final. 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals for junior guard Gabriela Jaquez. She scored 7 points in the final 2 minutes, including a clutch three-pointer with a minute 30 left. Center Lauren Betts had 17 points and 6 block shots. The Bruins are 34-2. Their only 2 losses this season came to USC. UCLA and USC will meet for a 4th time this season in the Final Four if the Trojans can beat Connecticut tonight in the Regional 4 final. UCLA would meet the USC-UConn winner on Friday in Tampa. South Carolina, the defending national champions, will play the winner of tonight's Texas Christian Regional 3 title game in the other Final Four matchup. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
A new day is on the horizon.
Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When you visit the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, the way you see the world begins to change. You realize that the more you encounter amazing species, the more you can't imagine a world without them. San Diego Zoo Safari Park. See conservation from a new perspective.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that like George and Weezy,
We're moving on now.
earlier this year, we were named a semifinalist for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th. At 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and George Fatherly III. It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. We're going to tell you in just a moment how you can participate and spread the word about this project. We need to collect these stories. The time is now, and many of these persons, as George said earlier, are aging and transitioning. And we need to collect these stories now. I loved his honest answer earlier. I said, George, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. He didn't know that Bruce's Beach story was going to turn out the way it did, but you have to at least collect the stories. You got to get the narrative right, and then who knows what happens a little further down the road. Before I continue our conversation with George Fatherly III, some more sound from one of the many, many, many phone calls that they are receiving for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project.
Good afternoon. Oh, it's still morning there. We're 3 hours different. Anyways, my name is Aretha Thomas, and I have followed the case of George Fatherly helping the Bruce family retrieve their land. My mom, she left an inheritance for all of us. But the land was stolen by oil companies. The land has oil and gas on it. I recently have learned that the papers where two of the people did not sell their land, the other people were tricked out of the land. Anyways, to make a long story short, at 70 years old, I'd like to retrieve that land for future generations. And I'm just wondering if Mr. Fatherly works out of Texas, where he's only working in California. This is like a desperate plea for help. My understanding is it's 352 acres of land, oil and gas. If you can help me, please call me back. If not, then I'll continue to look for someone that can assist me. You have a blessed night, and I thank you for helping the Bruces retrieve their land. It was well deserved. Thank you.
First of all, let me just say, I love the humility and the humanity in her call. That said, how do you, I'm just giving the audience a taste of the kinds of calls you're getting for this Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. But when you hear these calls come through, like how do you feel? How do you process this, George?
Man, Tavis, I mean, thanks for asking about that. But you're not the same.
Yeah.
Right? You're not the same. And what you realize is, you know, this woman, Miss Thomas, she's in her 70s now. She's carried this burden her whole life, and she never had any idea of what to do. There was never not even a glimmer of hope. Not even one of the narratives we collected. Dr. Alexander, Rosalind Alexander, which she says in her interview, she's so eloquent. She says, please understand that if you're black in the 1920s, the government wants your land, they don't come and ask politely, right? They don't come and say, please, like she said, one, they take it. Two, they make you feel like they did you a favor, like it was an act of service that you were able to contribute your land to this project they're building, right? And so the point I'm trying to make is there's been no hope for a lot of folks. And I want to talk about something because you asked the question, hey, what are we going to do with this? And it used to piss me off. It still pisses me off when people would ask about Bruce's Beach and they'd say stuff like, hey, how does it feel to get justice for the Bruce family? How does it feel? You got justice for Bruce's Beach. How does that feel? And that, it pisses me off because I want to be clear. Like the Bruce family did not get justice, right? They had something taken from them that could have been an annuity for 100 years of wealth that they could have built. They did not get justice. Like, maybe they got restitution. Maybe they got reparations. I don't even like when people call it reparations. It's like, if I steal your wallet,
that's right.
If I steal your wallet and then 2 days later I give it back, like you didn't get reparations, you got your stuff back, right? And so
that's right.
So it frustrates me. So anyways, I was given a talk, Tavis, and it was kind of an international audience, and I made the point about, look, this is not. I want to be clear, it's not justice. Them getting the land back. And I'm done doing the talk, and this European woman from Belgium comes up to me, gets right in my face. She goes, I disagree with what you said. And I'm like, what the? She goes, I disagree with what you said. She goes, you said that those families didn't get justice. And what she explained to me, and it was powerful, she explained that after apartheid fell in South Africa, they had the Truth and Reconciliation.
TRC.
Yep.
Sure.
And she said it was an opportunity for victims to come forward and to share their story and to have it recorded. And she said, if you look and you study where that happened, she goes, it's not the justice we think of like in a capital American system, like that justice, like you got like legal justice. But she said it's a form of what she calls like, transitional justice. And I got to tell you, when we collect these narratives and we give people the opportunity to share what happened to their family, to share the reason their father lost their job and left the family, to share the reason the family ended up, like at the end of that conversation, like I didn't do anything. Like there's no promise. This is not legal support. But sharing that story and knowing that it's going to be captured and preserved, I think does provide something for people that I think is important.
See, you're onto something here. So let me take this thing a step further. When you mentioned the TRC in South Africa, it wasn't just those persons who were victimized. And here's the more powerful part of the story for me. You see where I'm going, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the perpetrators. That's exactly where I'm going, George Father III. It's the perpetrators who were allowed to come forward and tell their stories. And if you came forward and told the truth about the harm that you caused, the maiming that you caused, the murder if you came forward and told the truth, then these black people, this is why I love us, at our best, ain't nobody like us. These black folk in South Africa would forgive you because Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, all of those, Oliver Tambo, all these great leaders understood that retribution was not the answer. That's right. That was not the response. So at our best, we have shown
grace.
Exactly.
It's grace.
It's grace and mercy, right? And those are unmerited favors. You didn't earn this. No. It's an unmerited favor. But it shows again who we are at our best. Now, let me take another step. I would love that in this country, the perpetrators who stole this land, who tricked these black folk out of their land, would come forth and tell their truth, but that ain't gonna happen.
Well, look, that's not gonna happen, and I'm not. I mean, you're more. That's an ambitious aspiration, right? But even beyond that, though, just having folks sit down and understand, like, hey, the way that I got to where I am today. Maybe it's because I'm good and smart and work hard, but like it's really because my grandfather was able to buy this land and build wealth, and with that wealth he was able to start a business, and with that business he was there's no shame in the recognition that we are benefactors of what happened before us. And there also should not be any shame in understanding that we're victims of what happened before us. And what you point out, I love the analogy you make with South Africa. Like in this country, we never did that.
Never.
Right? We just said, hey, let's forget about it and let's try to move forward. You see where that's got us. Now there's a conscious effort, not just let's not talk about it, let's erase it. Yeah. Right? Let's take those names off the wall. And so that's why that work's important. And look, we know that there are thousands of stories out there, and we want folks. So we've got a website. It's www.blacklandlost.org, blacklandlost.org. When you go to that site, at the top of the page, in the very middle, there's a button that says Share Your Story. And we want folks who've been impacted by black land loss, black land theft. We want them to go on that site. We want them to click the button and just tell us what happened. Describe what happened so that we can start to build a database, and then we're going to follow up and collect these stories, get videos, get audio, so that we don't lose this.
We'll give you that website at least 3 or 4 more times before we wrap this conversation with George Father III. It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. More about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life, so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABCRadio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABCRadio.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, we know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one. Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with George Farley III. That website, once again, is called blacklandlost.org. We need to hear your stories. blacklandlost.org. If you have a story, know someone with a story, direct them to blacklandlost.org. We need to collect these stories. I was saying to George a moment ago during the break that you never know where this is going to take you. Because there are moments when the good white folk have their consciences pricked. When they saw Emmett Till in that casket, their consciences were pricked. When they saw those water hoses and those dogs being sicked on those precious black babies in Birmingham, their consciences were pricked. So you're taking the first step, which is to collect these stories about this black land loss. But who knows where down the road this may take you.
So let me jump in. So I don't want to sound naive, but a part of this project is around changing hearts and minds. Mm-hmm. But I also want to think back to the clip that you opened with, that John Huston clip. Mm-hmm. And the question John was responding to is, what do you hope to accomplish by sharing your story? And what John said was powerful. He said, I hope it helps people find some worth about themselves. Mm-hmm. So John's not focused on changing hearts and minds of white folks. Mm-hmm. John's talking to our people, our community. Oh, yeah. It's okay. Mm-hmm. This was out of your control. This was not because your family was kind of dumb or stupid or wasn't like, this is because it got taken and there was nothing they can do. And so it's powerful for us to understand how we got here too, Tavis.
Yeah. And beyond the Bruce's Beach story, which of course you were at the epicenter of, we discussed that earlier, that happens and it makes national news. It's on the cover of everything, New York Times. I mean, everywhere I looked, there was a story about what you pulled off with Bruce's, for the Bruce family with regard to Bruce's Beach. And then, some time passes and I'm reading the story about Palm Springs. And getting some respect for these black and brown folk in Palm Springs who had their land taken away, burnt down. I guess my question is whether or not you see a pattern here moving us in a particular direction. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. So let me tell you about Palm Springs. So we had heard about Section 14, and for the listeners who are not familiar with this story, you got to go online. You got to Google Section 14, Palm Springs. Understand what happened in that history. I'll give the brief version, but you know, Tavis, it was about when was this? Early 1960s, like late 1950s. It was the 50s. It was a 1 square mile parcel of land in the middle of downtown Palm Springs where black and brown people lived. And these were the folks who were the cooks and the landscapers and the house cleaners and the chauffeurs to all the rich folks living around there. It was native land. It was Indian land. And Congress changed the law in 1959. It was the Indian Leasing Act of 1959. Congress changed the law so that instead of a maximum of 5-year lease on that land, they extended it for this area to 99 years, a 99-year lease. So they realized, hey, this land's very valuable. The city went in and systematically evicted, not just evicted,
burned it down.
But they burned it down. Okay, so that's the story. So anyways, so as part of this project, what I'm saying is I want to collect some stories from people from Section 14, from this. And we're looking, and there are lawsuits going on, so it's hard to get people because they don't want to talk when they're doing a lawsuit. But so, I'm emailing, I'm calling, and I can't get anyone who's willing to talk to me. So I sit on it, and it's my birthday. And my father calls me. Now, my father and I, we don't have a great relationship. We haven't been in touch for a while, but he calls every year on my birthday. And he says, happy birthday. We talk a little bit. And when we're hanging up, now my dad went to Palm Springs High School, so he grew up down there.
Oh, got it.
And when we're hanging up, I said, hey, Dad, hold on. Before you hang up, I said, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of District 14? And my dad said, you mean Section 14? And I go, yeah, Section 14. He goes, yeah, that's where I was born.
Hold that thought. Our remaining moments with George Father the Third when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
You said District 14. Your father said Section 14. Yeah, I know it. I was born there.
He said that when his parents brought him home from the hospital, they brought him to Section 14. He said his dad had it was a shack, right, a shanty, and his grandmother lived one over. And so here's why I mentioned that. We all have these stories in our family, and we don't have to look far. And so what we're trying to do is we want folks to go to blacklandlost.org. You get to that homepage. You can watch a couple of videos, clips, but at the top in the middle, there's a button that says Share Your Story. And if you've got somebody in your family or if it happened to you, we want you to put your story in there so we can build our database and we can reach out to record your story.
I'm also thinking about the ways in which, this is what I do. This is the nerd in me, right? But I'm also thinking, George, about the way in years to come, scholars and authors and historians and educators can use this archive.
Right. That's right. And Tavis, look, I'm not, I'm proud to say, like, my model for this is not original thing for me. Everything I'm doing, we stole it from the Shoah Foundation, right? So Shoah Foundation is, collects stories and narratives from Holocaust survivors. And it started with Holocaust survivors. Now it's expanded to genocide. And their mission, right? Their mission is to collect, preserve, and share survivor testimonies in order to increase knowledge and understanding and to build a future that rejects anti-Semitism, hatred, dehumanization, and genocide. We're doing the same thing. But we can't, and that's why it pisses me off that we're trying to erase history. Like, we can't go forward. I think we can do both. Yeah. I think we can acknowledge what happened in the past and move forward in a positive direction.
Yep. Well, as we established earlier in this conversation, the timing for this project could not be more propitious. And I know you are listening all across the country. And if you don't have a story, I know you know somebody who has a story. And so my end and aim, my mission in having George on this program, and I was just saying to him privately, which I'll now say publicly, I'm going to give him the names of every other Negro I know who hosts a show, heard across the country that he needs to be on. You need to be on The Breakfast Club. You need to be on Roland Martin. You need to be, I'm going to give you all their numbers and all their names because you need to be on all of these shows. We all need to get this message out. So I'm not territorial in that regard. So I'll share that with you so you can call these people as well and get on their shows. But for now, it's the blacklandlost.org website, blacklandlost.org. Go there, read it for yourself. Tell your family members to go there. Again, from California to the Carolinas, literally. There are all kinds of stories that we have that need to be archived. Last word to you.
Yeah, hey, so last thing I'll mention, as we're collecting these narratives, sometimes we do the interview and it's not one person, it's siblings. And it's been really beautiful, Tavis, to see how understanding this history and doing the research is actually bringing families together. You got brothers and sisters who haven't been in touch, and now they got weekly calls where, like, share the research you learned. So it's something like you said, we're a graceful people, and we take some tragedy, some crisis, and we turn it into something that can bring us together. It's beautiful.
Exhibit A, you got you and your dad talking. So I digress on that. Once again, blacklandlost.org. Did I say blacklandlost.org? I think I said blacklandlost.org. George Fowler, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Tavis. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump commuted the sentence of Black Aussie Media founder